Hello, and welcome back to the Meehan Mission podcast. We are in a special 3-part series on reflexes with Dr. Laura Hanson. So if you go back, part 1, we discussed withdrawal reflexes. Part 2 was primitive reflexes. And on today's part 3 episode, we're going to discuss postural reflexes, which you might consider this part of our anti-gravity system because that's what keeps us upright and balanced and coordinated. We are going to talk about how posture actually connects to our neurological health. We have to remember, movement isn't just physical, it's part of brain development. So sit back, take some notes, share the podcast, and let's learn more with Dr. Laura Hanson. Hey everyone, and guess what? It is our final part 3 of our 3 series talking about reflexes with Dr. Laura Hanson. And today we're going to talk about postural reflexes. And I am so glad you are back again today. So Dr. Laura Hanson, please take over.
Okay, here we go. We're going to now tie our bow around our reflexes. We started off with withdrawal reflexes. This is our earliest defense system. We have to know how to protect ourselves, how to get away from something. Mm-hmm. This actually builds that same kind of pattern up in the brain that says, I need to put the brakes on connections and things that are not really necessary for me to focus on right now. How do I get that runaway brain to stop? You have to know how to put the brakes on. Then we made a beautiful transition into the world of primitive reflexes. You have transitions throughout your entire life, going from being a newborn to a toddler, to riding a bike, to going to college, to getting married. There's just transitions all through our life. The reflexes, the primitive reflexes, are part of that transitional process. But the day that you are born, that is when postural reflexes begin. Okay. So think of that little baby coming out of the birth canal. I love the story of birth and how that baby transcends like a Tootsie Roll through the birth canal. And it literally gets all balled up. And then it's going to toe off and be birthed by extension. That is what happened to every one of us if we got to go through the birth canal. Okay. So the first thing you do is you begin interacting with gravity. And what is that thing that everybody notices about the newborn? Look, they're picking up their head. I love that part because we're already doing it, but we have to bring the rest of the body with us. So at the end of our second episode, we finished with the little baby holding them up and that the stepping reflex is automatically there. But you pull your hands away and the baby would come down because we are not wired in gravity yet. And it takes us a year to get there. And we practice. Everything we do, we practice. So we move along, we get into locomotion, we crawl along. Then around 10 months, you get into cruising. And that's when you pull yourself up on something and you walk along the furniture. But then you bounce. You're practicing those joints in gravity. And so there's a little motion pattern in every single joint as you're getting ready to start walking. You can compress, you can pull apart, you can rotate, and you can translate. And so when those babies are just sitting there bouncing, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, I'm getting ready because I'm going to take a step and I'm going to be ready to do that. Now, what does the baby look like? When the baby stands up, because their head is so big in
Yeah.
comparison to their bodies, their legs are bowed out initially, and that's okay. And the arms go up. This is called high guard. And they're literally like little teeter-totters out there practicing their balance in order to know that they will be able to walk one day. And they'll start to practice that pattern. And then down the road, the hands will come down. We'll start to have reciprocal arm swing around 4 years old. And our legs will actually turn in a little bit. And this is for the Q angle of the hip, because the bones cannot, or the muscles cannot keep up with the growth of the bone. So your hip joints literally accommodate this growth in gravity. Okay. Now, by around 7.5, 8.5, legs should be straight. We do not want excessive bowing, and we do not want excessive turning in. It's not just about the legs. So all of your body is responding to this process. So there are 8 anti-gravity muscles. 2 of them, if they are weak, they will literally drive the other 6 to shorten up. And I don't want you to think shortened is contracted. It's not that. A contracted muscle is like me flexing my bicep. Okay. A shortened muscle, you actually lose sarcomeres. And sarcomeres are that individual muscle motor unit. Just like when a woman is pregnant, she gets more sarcomeres so that her belly can grow. Okay. And all of these have neurological feedback that is going on in that body. But if I lose sarcomeres, then the back of my legs for the hamstring, they're too short. And literally, I can't straighten my leg. I have seen kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, could not straighten their legs to save their lives. So they're laying on their back, and you try to bring that leg up to 90 degrees, they can't do it. When we ask them to do that dead bug exercise that we talked about for cross crawl, they cannot straighten their legs because those muscles are already too short. And it's a way of trying to lock the frame in because that individual is unstable. Now, this is also true for us. Okay. So if our abdominal muscles are weak, if our bottom muscles are weak, then we are going to shorten up the back of the leg called the hamstring. A muscle that's on the side of the leg called the tensa fasciolata. Another muscle that's across your bottom called the piriformis. A muscle up here called the SCM, which goes from the back of the head down to your clavicle. Your trap muscle from the top of your head to your shoulders down to a diamond in your back. And your QL, your quadratus lumborum, that muscle is at the bottom of your ribs, attached to the first 4 lumbar bones of your low back, and then the top of your pelvis. And this can make different configurations. So this could create scoliosis. This creates an asymmetrical pattern on one side of the body. It's not both sides because the body's going to go here, here, here in order to keep your eyes neutral. So this asymmetry is literally going to be a feedback mechanism up to your brain. And that is the hardest part for your brain to figure out when it is getting information different from one side over the other.
Wow, what a connect the dots, amazing miracle when the body does it right.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, because you think about every single little individual muscle and how it works together and how complicated our body is. Personally, I believe how God created our body to be so perfect. And if we can keep it in that world with, you know, no environmental toxins and no stress and no anxiety, and just nurture the body, nurture the pregnant mother, how the body really is designed to be a beautiful thing. But
It's like a choir
yes,
or a
absolutely.
symphony. This is
Like a
why
symphony.
like a symphony.
Mhm,
This is why when it comes to development,
mhm,
think of what that baby does.
mhm,
That baby is not reading, writing, and doing math. That
mm-mm,
baby is moving.
mhm,
Movement is everything. This is why
mhm.
now they go sitting is the new smoking. Because
Yeah.
if we're sitting, we're not getting that symphony
Mhm,
playing together like it should.
mhm,
And
exactly.
if babies are not getting on the floor,
Mhm,
sometimes I get a little serious, I'll say that, when a mom says, "My baby doesn't like to be on its belly." Your newborn baby, your little baby doesn't know what it likes and what it doesn't like. It
yeah,
needs to be on the floor. It
yes.
doesn't need to be in big apparatuses all the time.
Mhm,
It needs that freedom of motion.
mhm,
When we go back and tie that thought to the Moro reflex, when you are a baby and you are in flexion, you have to start opening up.
mhm.
And you do not open up until around 4 weeks, I'm sorry, 10 weeks of life.
Okay.
Okay. The Moro reflex should be inhibited by the 4th month of life. So that's a timeline to be watching.
Okay.
So if one, I didn't express good flexion and I was floppy,
Mhm,
that's a kid that is low tone.
mhm,
And you can see this. If you put them down on their hands and knees, it looks like their elbows are bent inward.
mm,
So the joint is literally impacted, and they didn't get into their forearms, which began the education in that shoulder joint,
mhm,
which then goes to the elbow and then into the hands. And if I don't ever get into my hands, so if I don't crawl
mhm,
properly, I never develop the arch in my hand.
mm,
And holding a writing instrument will be very difficult. Now, just that's one extremity, right? How we have to give that appropriate environment.
mhm.
If I had the opportunity to have a baby, I would do it so differently. I wouldn't have any furniture. I would
Okay.
have really thick mats on my floor
Uh-huh.
that would really inspire that child to move and to
Mhm,
feel the bounce all the
mhm.
time, because that's the vestibular system. Your
Okay.
vestibular system is inside of your ear. So
Mhm,
if I were to ask you, Miss Kathy, do you
mhm.
like going on roller coasters?
It would be at what age? Because
Right now.
I loved
Right now.
I would go on them, and I would be
Okay, good.
hesitant at first, but I would go on it, and then I'd be like, "Wow, that was so fun."
Okay, good. That
Yeah.
means that your vestibular system is working.
Mhm,
Okay. Do you know how many adults might be sitting out there? And I'd love for us to take a poll, but we
Yes.
can't do that right now. But they can certainly write to us and tell us. If we said to you, would you get on a roller coaster right now? If you were to say, oh, no, that would tell you your vestibular system isn't working well. So you also might have a car sickness. You might get queasy just watching that kind of motion. Okay. So your vestibular system is 3 little canals inside of your ear, and it allows you to do all of these different motions. And there's fluid inside of these canals and little hair follicles. So when you move, it brushes up against the little hair follicles, and it's telling your brain where you're going. Okay. So that part is one of the first systems that comes online, and it is believed to be completely mature by the time you're born.
What?
Wow. Yes. This is the most powerful little system. Now, I also like to connect the dot.
Yeah.
It's not just the motion of forward, backward, side to side, flexion, extension this way. But what about all the motion inside of our body? We have a very distinct way that our blood travels. If it doesn't go that way, it's clotting. It's a problem. We have a very particular way that we digest food. It goes in, it goes down, it goes out. If it doesn't happen that way, we have some problems. When an egg and a sperm come together, they come together in a very unique way. If that doesn't happen, we don't get conception. Movement is not just about the movement out here, but it's also the movement in here that provides that feedback to the brain. And you, as a human being, you have to live in gravity. You have to be able to adapt in gravity. And when people cannot adapt in gravity, that puts a stress on their system. If their eyes are not working right, that really alters their interpretation of gravity. And I don't know if you've ever heard the Sherman frequency monitor, but the gravitational pull used to be considered around 7.8. That's actually a theta brainwave. That is comfortable. They believe today that it's actually risen up to 15 with the amount of stress that has come into all of our worlds and the energy that we are putting off and how it is actually impacting the earth. And it's not just us. Have you ever seen a picture of how many satellites actually are around the earth? That is a picture that to me would really be very alarming. I looked at it. And at first
how many more are possibly
coming?
going up?
Yes, yes.
The number.
I looked at that and I said, is that a virus molecule? And somebody goes, no, it's planet Earth and all the satellites.
And all the satellites. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can we slow down, people? Can we just slow down? We need to slow down.
We need, as adults and older children, we need to be very comfortable on a bicycle. We need to be very comfortable riding in a car, even if we can't see the dashboard. Okay. Because that would influence how your brain is interpreting the horizon. Okay. So we need to be comfortable. We need to be flexible. Can you touch your toes? If you can't touch your toes, you have tight hamstrings. You probably have shortened hamstrings, and that rigidity is coming back to your brain. Think of the people, especially, as a chiropractor will go, okay, turn your head to the right, and the whole body turns. And then you come back and they go to the left and the whole body turns. They have no longer can distinguish simply turning the head versus turning the whole body. That is going to be feedback to your brain. And if you are inflexible, if you are rigid, guess what happens to your personality? You
Mm.
become
Rigid
rigid,
and
rigid.
inflexible.
That's right.
I
Because
agree. I agree.
what did
Yeah.
we say? You as a baby were moving. That is the
Mhm.
feedback mechanism to wiring up the brain.
Mhm.
So if you're no longer moving, that is the feedback going to your brain.
Mm.
And it literally will impact your health. And most of
Yeah.
those people are going to be in chronic pain.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
every year that you are in chronic pain, you
Mm.
lose 2.3 cubic centimeters of gray matter. And
Mm.
gray matter is where you process. You have two matters. You have gray matter, you have white matter.
Mhm.
Gray is where you process. White is how you get it from one part of your brain to another part of your brain. You literally lose processing fibers. That to me
Mm.
is quite alarming. Now,
It is.
one other one that it's not a postural muscle per se.
Mhm.
So we have postural muscles, but all of your muscles can have various roles other than just the action. So
Okay.
have you ever heard of the psoas muscle?
I've heard of it. Yes.
Okay. So that muscle is on the front of the spine and it's really thick and
Mhm.
it splits and it goes down into your pelvis.
Mhm.
It allows you to pick up your leg into hip flexion.
Mhm.
Okay. That's its motor action, but it has another role. So if your brain perceives from its defense system, the withdrawal reflexes that you are about to be in a threat, that psoas muscle tightens you up just a little because it's not sure if you're about to be stabbed, punched, or shot. So it's going to protect your vital organs. That action of a muscle is innately designed to protect you.
Mhm.
Okay, now remember what we talked about in the beginning. You could have had a great childhood, but you are now going through all kinds of things and you could be regressing backwards.
Mm.
Okay. If that muscle stays short chronically, and what is chronic? Let's do it by definition. Chronic is considered anything that continues to go on for about 6 months.
Okay.
Okay. So when you are in a chronic situation,
Mhm.
your brain goes, okay, you want to keep this going. So I'm going to surrender some of those beautiful neurons that you made when you were a tennis player or you played a flute or you drew because you're not doing that anymore. And I'm going to re-navigate and redirect and get those to pursue your chronic stress pattern. So you lose real estate in your brain
Mm.
and you literally go into, especially as an adult, early degenerative changes in your brain. Now,
Mm.
that psoas muscle, that threat persisting for 6 months, that little of the contraction, not shortened, literally a little contraction, is constantly telling your brain over and over and over again that you are in a threat, even if the threat was gone. So if
Mm.
that goes on chronically, now we can see this as an adult. Wonder if you're a kid and this is the way your brain is getting wired up.
Mm. And that's
This
normal for you as a
yes,
because you
it's
don't know.
your norm.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
changing. It's
Mhm.
changing how your brain is actually getting formed
Mm.
because the brain develops based on the experience that you have.
Yeah.
And if that's your experience,
Mm.
that's what you're getting. And that
Yeah.
to me is why I'm so passionate about these reflexes.
Mhm.
It's not the only thing people have going on, but it is a lost art. I think
Mhm.
more people know about it today than even 10 years ago. but it is how the central nervous system actually gets primed.
Yeah.
And it is the rudimentary place of all learning.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a stroke, for example,
Mhm.
which, especially during COVID, there were a lot of strokes that went on, right? So typically it's one side of your brain affecting the other side of your body. And most people think about only the hand and the leg. They don't think about the torso. So
Mm.
now the postural reflexes, the abdominal muscles, the glute muscles, it's all about your torso. Okay.
Okay.
Having a stroke, it's not just the most distal end or the most far apart end,
Mhm.
it's the whole side.
Mm.
So it is the eye, the brain, the neck, the throat, the lungs, the bronchi. That side, if it's a left body, that's your stomach, the head of your stomach. It
Mm.
is also your descending colon. So all of that function can be impacted, not just the hand and the foot. So when we have an asymmetrical insult to the body,
Mhm.
this is how devastating it can be. So
Mhm.
that's a severe, right?
Yes.
But these little asymmetries, they're just like a little gnat that's constantly flying around and you
Mhm.
can't get it.
Mhm.
It is changing how your brain is going to function. And over time, it can have a very big impact.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just the reflexes in general really are an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to your developmental system. It's just like it's like one of those things that you don't even think about. You don't even talk about. You just assume health, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, that's been me just assuming health and then meeting people like you who bring these things to our attention where it really is important to pay attention to developmental stones or the milestones and you know not everybody needs to know the actual grammar and the words and everything but they really do need to connect with a professional
Yeah.
and
And
someone that
understand so somebody can
yeah
look at it.
yeah
Yeah.
so somebody can understand and look at it and help walk them through if there is some sort of corrective behaviors that can be done or therapies. I know we've talked about that
Well,
before that
there's
yeah
so many things that can
hmm
be done, but
hmm
the key is to go back far enough. And that's
hmm
why we started with the withdrawal reflexes and then went into the primitive and the postural, because
yeah
if you don't go back far enough,
hmm
you'll get changes just based on what you're working on. But the other one, because it's still there, it's further back, it's
hmm
always going to creep into the picture.
yeah
One other example that I was thinking of that might be really good for the audience is another example for that psoas muscle.
hmm
So, my first birth of my son was horrific because I was not educated 38 years ago. I've been practicing for 30 years. But I ended up, because I didn't know better, I didn't know how to advocate for myself, I ended up having a C section.
hmm
And back then, it felt like it was a terrible experience of how, when they put me back together, they just stapled it across.
hmm
And it's low, but it feels like a shelf goes through me. And for years, I had chronic piriformis pain.
mm
Okay. So chronic is over 6 months, how it can impact my brain. Piriformis is a postural muscle. So that's telling me how my body was having to adapt. But because all the tissue in the front is so pulled together, my psoas is absolutely shortened. So even from having a C section,
hmm
I can also impact how my psoas works.
hmm
So trying to bring my foot up behind my body and lengthen my psoas is very difficult. I have to lay on the floor and do it, but working on my psoas is part of my stretch and exercise program, right?
Okay.
But I want people to know that it's not just about like something terrible has to happen to your child for something to go amiss. It's why we've got to look at all the things and how somebody could have their own physiology fire back at them. So it could be something from a traumatic event. It could be the outcome of like having to have a C-section. It could be just mental stress. I always look at everything from a 3-tier approach: mechanical, chemical, brain, because all three of them play a part of how our human body works.
Yeah. Again, and you want all three of those parts to work together so that the orchestra,
Yes,
so that the
is in
orchestra
tune.
is in tune. Yeah, is in tune and makes beautiful music. And makes
Yes,
beautiful music.
exactly right. Makes beautiful music.
Yeah. Well, and that just goes back to confessions here. My first baby was vaginal delivery with forceps. So I'm thinking about all the problems that we had.
Well,
Know better,
we've
do
all
better.
done the best we could with
Yeah,
the information that we
that we had
had,
at the time.
that
Absolutely.
we had at the time.
Which is why we do these podcasts, right,
That's
Dr.
right.
Hanson?
That's why we're doing
Absolutely.
what we're doing,
That's
so
why
that
we do
we
it.
can educate
Yes.
a new generation with
Right.
greater information.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I mean, and I appreciate you so much for that, because it really is educating. It's like I said, know better, do better, and educate and provide resources. And
Yes.
for people to get a hold of you, we go to
connectmybrain.com.
connectmybrain.com. I love that, connectmybrain.com, because you are a wealth of information. I appreciate you so much for sharing with our audience.
Oh, absolutely.
And just for everybody, that was part 3 of Reflexes. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share these episodes with other people that might have the same interests that you have. And stay tuned, because I'm sure Dr. Hanson will be back again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.